Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Scary Gals and Pirates of the Caribbean film series. Simon Angels here. Today's day is about April 28, 2023, this Friday, and we are besides the 5 centrals of WWE Network on Friday Night SmackDown. Today's day is about night one and is about draft on Raw and SmackDown. NXT Superstar goes to the bout for the main rosters. Um, So welcome to the Ahoy Powwows number 7 today. Um, Today is about yesterday. We just remember that for about 40 minutes ago. This is my friend Michael and Corn and Mark, and we're just here for about making the shoes about discovering tour for about making the shoes for about McJuggerNuggets here for about to be continued on storylines on and about Tony as crazy boyfriend and mostly could for about the former characters of about 2016. Most of the people do hoof out for about 2017, like Juggies do. Um, those was today is about special days, is about the timelines as much as soon as possible. Like so much about the break times and makeovers and about a few years ago. Once about the ticket size or about her critical reasons about like entire time for like most of the shoes about eternity and then the entire time. So however I just did for about what I could for about a few days ago. List about every 5 days ago, we just do for about the videos action for about 40 minutes ago. And though sometimes his Tony Tornado says he doesn't like a videos action for uploading his channel for about to making his money. And Tony got fired from his job for about 2016 for the last 7 summers ago. All things made for about Felicity about, which is a reservatory observatory of for the Tony's Tornado's evolutions from crazy boyfriend and its characters about Millie and Samantha, like recycling and raking each other's and like aggravating each other's like people all the time, but soon as have about a chance with it, chance to meet about the 2 weeks ago. So we have to do that is about for the muted for about for nobody's reasons. All we did for about list of the time as well as soon as the possibilities. All we did is about for Juggy's name for about like a Psycho Dad for about listed recurred for about. But you know what the seems means about it does have to really matter what. We'll just do that the video's actions as far as I am concerned about last few days ago. However, we just do that about we just took care of for about any timelines as much as soon as possible, right? Yeah, it's just all about it takes about for the vlogs and announcement and reviews and must learn about for the next summer in June 2024 as the 8-year evolution of the 2016 to 2014. For later back, it's about 2008. For Lisa Backer was in the end of a 6th grade class, and there might end about the Ridgecrest Elementary School Raiders, as they are about. I was instituted to about for Mrs. Roy's class and Mrs. Hughes' class, and thus replace each other's about the entire teachers. Ridgecrest Raiders and staffs, Virginia Junior High Cougars and staffs and teachers, and Elmwood Jaguar staffs, and directory for about like a 12 years evolution for about first grades, the first through 12th grades. It eventually timelines like and soon so much possibilities for about for the listed for about for the last 12 years for the first through 12th grade, and besides it every 12 years. Listed for about for colleagues and for about the scholarships, like and acknowledgement for about from the judges too for about Jesse Tyler Ridgway is like the special his new relationship between Ashley May as replacing Juliet Riley. As known as about the Jesse is relationship between it sometimes he will be engaged on his girl on Ashley May. Ashley May will be engaged this year. It seems I don't respect her. I don't disrespect her for. I respect her. Or I respect her and people's and any like about Elma, New Jersey. Somehow, her mom and dad and his psycho parents and his big brother as his relationship. I know this girl is summoned her at his house about his figure out about a rental for years. I just figure out for about any timelines of like soon as possible. I know some like to sort of things out about like 2 years ago. Or things about McJuggerNuggets due to the about epidemic here in about 4 years. It might have a thing to size about COVID-19 ended for about probably about almost 5 months. Listed for about October 2023. Listed about the end of a COVID-19 before the end of a 2023 in the 365 days of a year. It listed about 1,461 days is about January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2023. Listed about every 1,461 days. He only about that takes about for the care of about for the lifetime as the life of the Psycho series, the life of the Psycho families, and the life it could be about the situation here between those guidelines. It's not everything's about the backgrounds all the time about those teaching about for the lesson of timelines about those actions as far as I am concerned for the last 10 years ago. Listed for about Psycho Brothers film Freaks Out on about to probably about Halloween 2013. We're just talking about for the next Halloween for about 2023, and besides it's about 5 months, including like maybe for sometimes we do have about later Halloween for 2024 and 2025. Yeah, I mean we was just transpire for about like an entire time for the year. So we did that for about the whole purposes. It's listed for about the summer times about the same actions. I know sometimes it's just things about 2024 for the years, like in timelines about exactly could for 2 years ago, or maybe about 4 years and 6 years and 8 years and 10 to 12 or 14 and listed as 16 through 18 years. This is from 2005 for about 18 years. Like, I know somehow the YouTube just created for about February 2005, like, takes over about 18 years. So do you know 2025 means? It means you go for about later years. We'll be at about February 2025. So quite frankly, if this moments ago all the time, you listed we're talking about a Pirates Ahoy Powwows of a year for about listed for the timelines for about listed for about the both same thing about next year's ended for about next June 2024 as Pirates of the Caribbean Movie Madness and Pirate Ahoy's Powwow. And then there could be about 8 years of for the vlogs, announcements, speech reviews, which at that time as much as soon as possible. Like that takes breaks about any timelines as much as soon as possible. Like YouTube studios, just like Jesse's working at about 5 days. Like some of those were about in timelines about earn money as much as about eligibilities. It wishes like same thing and same timelines about definitely could. Um, so I wish it's about time to meet this about to go home for Jesse's way to for the Rich Ray's residence for the timelines, which is about the tributes to for the camping tents for the Eagles Landing. Um, all I have to do is about Eagles Landing for about 8 years ago, like 8 Easter Sundays for about. Listen to Jesse sneaks in for about Psychodads as friends and relatives came over to his house. Like all these occur for about for list of the characters about like Jesse and Jeffrey were just heavy about the thought about videos, actions, all things that about the concern about he's both being a man and both being to learn the lessons each other's and I know sometimes it's just we do care for about any time of most wishes just go out for outgoing confrontation with each other's between at Rich Ray's, Abraham's, and Stahlberger's, and his friends and neighbors and this guys and nurseries and spas and workers. And that's could be a lot of same things about same time. All we did is about an entire definitely could. Like one thing that could for the time for the days is about the timeable lines. It's a definitely could for about or maybe it could about 2023 is one of my best ever, so all times. And then even 40 minutes ago, listen to half yesterday, I do 40 minutes of video vlogs ago, like all the time between me and Michael and Corn and Mark about McJuggerNuggets did for about for the evolutions. Those three last name is White, Cornfields, and Lewis. Yes. We do wanted to say I just did for what I could. I felt like anytime like soon as possible, like most of the like funny moments like McJuggerNuggets as to the pitfall pranks. It's a trap sometimes it's just about whole mud pit pranks and Jeffrey did about his laughing about it. Even Corn and Jesse just escaping from Big Brother about the muddy clothes. Dude, it's just cleaning up for the swimming pool for about like the entire time for old ones about 8 years. Even Jesse and Corn just like laughing at each other's like a dog pig to just focus on. I just noticed about we're just quite literary for about even sense about for Bell's issues about the Bell's doors about entrance. It's usually for about when I figure out I just knew all the time as much as soon as the possibilities. When I just realized when I go over for about for this moments ago, all days and days along. So we would do for about all the time for about the last chance with it. I should surely have to see this as one about we're just working it on juggies to what I exactly be. All we things did for about the timelines we could. So I spoke to her for about Jesse's relationship, things we have for the love interests for new girl like Ashley May, the old ones called Juliet Riley. And this is two of them besides without permissioners about once for all for about for the Jesse's relationship between Juliet Riley or Ashley May. This is all Jesse's choice or about like an entire time of like an entire consumable talking about Jesse's relationship between Ashley May or Julia Riley. As much as the curve about issuing for about entire forbidden love, it is so much interesting like Julia's relationship between those guidelines and timelines. We just taught about all things could for about the soonest as possible. So I'm not sure for about listen we could for addresses for about YouTube stream shows for about the Twitch as it will call gamers. Um I don't think Jesse doesn't seems like mention that for about I like it sometimes it's just do have about do whatever we're gonna do. It's but quite frankly for about different cuts for about since I noticed it just works in the out for about a few days ago. I would say we understand that sometimes this is still about the situations. That thinks it could be back down, let's say back up downs, and we should back away downs for about, let's say for from 2016. So we're back away down to 2016 evolution. Back was the returns as the reactions. It's about VidCons every year as 123 days of the summer's evolutions. Even that same thing, and sometimes it doesn't make sense for the match. Um, it's much quite frankly what I could. I much as understand, I just say anything and anytime, and it's much like as soon as possible. Like it breaks over about entire 40 minutes ago. Like as soon as a much more and more like. Well, it seems like about a whole entire time between rich race families becomes Psycho hunting family. While he's bringing the corn about the deer hunting for about the showdowns with the deer decoys. Even Jesse, Jeffrey, and Jeff seniors and try to hunt down for white-tailed deer with for the hunting license and for the deer tags. Things that all I have to do is make it about the hunting license, about calling about responsible, like the Fish and Wildlife, New Jersey State. Like same times, I just like the hunter call for the wild. Besides the reserves all like that, and as far as I am concerned, which should I take for about Psycho family hunting shows for about Lissa is pretty good on it. It's quite frankly enough for about the hunt is over and like a deer came over about all the time. So that was a call the deadline for about I don't know sometimes either the deer just hit by the car. Even Jesse's most freaks out and he called his dad for about who hit the deer. Even sometimes we get the Fish and Wildlife to take dead deer out of the street after it hit the deer by the car accident. So maybe sometimes we do have her about the 30 seconds ago. Sometimes the deer gets hit. They took away by game wardens and all times, and this is called responsible. We don't tell anybody the people's secrets. Things about it about the timelines as soon as the most possible. Do as much as I can to do whatever we're gonna do and do the right time. So at that blood is from a deer. Even that Jeffy Senior just put on the deer antlers blood on it on the counters. Even Jesse doesn't make notice about do this at the right time to do this at whatever about to do his right job. Like Jesse is decided for about the antlers blood on the table, or there could be about the antlers blood on the counters. Now that's why what happens when now though who hit the deer with the car for about and that's sort of ridiculous. So some of us think about we're just gonna have to take the blooded antlers away out of our house. That sometimes which means quite frankly for about this is the private area for private permanent property as long as I can. So I was gonna have to talk about Psycho family hunting about the rich race as Jeffrey Jr. and Jesse and Jeffrey Seniors and Teresa. Like Corn sometimes just do have it exactly could like some of those times. Maybe definitely could about standardization of each other's. And this is all it takes. So our list I think we're just having about the great issues. We'll talk about it. Like Jesse knows, we're just gonna have to talk about it for about list continues for the month. List continues of the book of McJuggerNuggets do, and this is scenes of what you can. Oh, do you mean that Tony Tornado's stories were about the Mountain Dew's actions for the stream for the live streamings for the Tony Tornado's rich guys called Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew is called that turns green and cold red and cold greens and cold blue. It thinks Mountain Dew does colorful things. It's quite frankly, it drinks a lot of sodas as much as I can, like the walls of the Mountain Dew. I kind of feels like it all the time. I think Tony loves Mountain Dew over the wall, like it at his house. I know somehow how much to think that happens to now. I think I'm one of the most exciting news about the time as soon as possible. Like, it is as much as I think we just do have about as soon as possible. If notice about as long as I can, I just do that about the most of the shoes. I think we wanted to do that anytime for about as soon as possible. Like in Mission Possibles for the Tony's actions between play as crazy boyfriend and like an entire as soon as possible, like finding Samantha, Tony's sisters with Millie. Tony and Millie were fighting. The Tonys can't even fight Millie. Can't even fight Samantha on. I don't think she's not here today, for she must have been about long time ago. Tony was at a videoing about the action about finding his sister Samantha. She play as Samantha anytime. As much as I learned about as long as soon as possible. Whoever she'll be, whoever she calls, whoever he calls her. Like in timelines of like as soon as much as possible. Like much of what I learned to do that all the time. Like sometimes, like some of those about exactly could. Even that to be continuous on finding Samantha while he's doing the showdowns cases. So why we did exactly could for about exciting times about for the list for about 4 hours ago for the YouTube lives. So things about exciting news about like entire time and as soon as much possible. So we just did for about to taking care of it for the last few months ago. Like seeing that those about the relationship between those Millie and Tony and finding to his sisters for about like the time for the showdowns about the real some cases, and Samantha was been gone for about for the last 10 days ago. Tony would have been find out for sure, like lost sisters and what's this called? Science says missings. That was been about last 7 summers ago, into from 2016 during the end of August. Now August 2016, and most people can do most of about people on just take a what says. They were put in a Science and Crime Watch on from the neighborhood. And Tony just literally for about video vlogs action between Millie and his mom sort of about Samantha. His mom took Samantha and about her house about the somewhere. I don't know where she's dropping her off for about like at schools and walk her home. She tries to walk home, and I don't know if this guy. I don't know. It looks like about unidentifiable guy just kidnapped Samantha. I don't think somebody else about. I haven't been noticed about like identified guy with this name. Even Samantha was kidnapped. even Tony was pretty worried about his sisters and about. I think he calls Samantha where she cries out for help. Um, anytime, even somebody called the police. Even that guy's inside, and Samantha was run away, and it looks like stalker guy is just about almost getting a kidnap. It seems about bad idea. Looks about bad news today for about Tony's call Samantha. He tries to call her for about a few times, and Tony made sad who he didn't want to lose her. He didn't want to lose her life for about her sister's life. Like he didn't want to lose his sister's life about any time, about as soon as much possible. So like speciality is it eventually between Millie and Tony to find Samantha for about either the strange guys just as about finding kidnappers. Tony and Samantha just searching about kidnappers on. I don't know if this is about identify a guy. I don't think the two of them they don't wanted to call it the metropolitan police officers. If this says lost, this says missing behind. This says lost, missing for girl. Just report to the Metropolitan Police Department and besides for the process. So Samantha was stayed behind for about from his house. Tony was responsible for Samantha for about while he's calling her for about like 10 days ago. After he was Millie and Tony will be found out. I would say I figure out just like he says. His mom will pick her up, take her to his house, like a week ago. And Tony was worried about Samantha. Was really thinking about, like entire years ago, from 7 years from 2016. He says I was certainly correct. Right things about time, like as soon as so much possibilities about this much of the like, all I think it could, it definitely could. And I know that sometimes it takes about any timeable as much as soon as possible. Like, if every so much people thinks about and soon as so much responsible for about the actions, even bad people just kidnap the girl and certainly get investigated and officers will make it arrested for about getting it aggravated for against this woman. And that's committed against the law while they take her out and kidnapping. I noticed Tony is found Samantha on September 1st, 2016, and Samantha was here, and she saves, and she takes rest. She knew the process. He's bringing her back home. I know sometimes do have about like quite sure for about Samantha's art, everything's okay. Her full name is Samantha. Her full name is Samantha Mantha Tornado. The reasons could be about her brother Tony Tornado as it about the crazy boyfriend as it a parody characters about thanks a lot of it about the timeable lines as much as soon as possible. Like, ever since people do have about making the hundreds of thousands of views, like in millions of views, as much of the timelines about million Tony. Even about the 2 years from 2015 through 2017. That most is correct, right? All I have to do as soon as much as possible. Like one thing's out as much as soon as later. So, however, in this time, it's ended up for about the million Tonys about 6 years ago. And it's much quite frankly, even though I kind of liked it, definitely could, as far as I liked. So, for everything in any time is seriously much more and more about responsible its actions. All things that we could for about responsibilities for about this actions. So every people would do have about responsible actions. They have a much no idea what just dealing with. So much as soon as possible, like so much things that we could for about most of the time, like people cares. However, it does make cares. And things about storylines. Oh, sorry, small tables. Things about my storylines were about list about last chance with it, about the reason curve, about for the vlog's announcement, and Tony's issues about like a preventing could about Tony's profits was about for the revenue. He earns about $100,000. Like some of those for about and like a timeline so as soon as the possibilities like responsible of those actions. I believe so. And most dudes it just looks like about the VidCon's actions and things about October 2016 for the year. Even eventually about 6 years later, most like things about entire time, like much more of it. Amanda Jean was the first time by Tony Tornadoes, and he walks over there, and Tony Tornadoes as crazy boyfriend. He knows that he met her for the first time ever. He seen her for the first time about the Amanda Jean shows for about entire time, and much quite frankly about the store's actions. So even much as think Amanda's issues were about like an entire as soon as possible, make it about for friends together, and as soon as possible about for the best of 2016 for about 366 days about the as soon as the most possibilities. And Millie was to figure out he didn't mention that was well. Soon as much of the possibilities about the actions. So Tony's didn't got once about the fence of what I have to do is I figure out. So we don't know about people's entire life about it's much likely for about soon as the most possibilities are much likely. I have to tell you something about important things out about entire soons and for the entire time. And it's just something we notice about since we notice we're just really talking about the VidCon's 2016 for the characters about 123 days in Anaheim. It's most likely for about most of the soon as possible. He didn't mention that the Logan Paul's vlogs and his brother Jake Paul. He doesn't talking about each other. He doesn't talking about each other's about talking about really confused supposedly each other's and confused. And it's just trying to make sure don't trying to talk to the strangers like that. Like it is quite literally sometimes. If some people doesn't talk like that, it makes no sense about for the strange things ever. So I know this is about all the time about we're just gonna have the newest showdowns about. However, we're just getting about the maximum wave about subscribers, more content of the day, like thousands of subscribers, and Pirates of the Caribbean film series says "How Are You Doing" by Tony Tornado about 6 years ago. I know, hey there, about all the time, yeah. So Tony knows me for about listed about 6 years ago, like it about the video cams, like probably about 2017 from 6 years. 6 years is a long time in 2017, and most people can do like about 50,000 with them, and a pretty about all things that could about the millions, or it could be about hundreds of millions of views. just like about 120 million views. Woo, that's a sky's quite very great. Tony should be like 120 millions of views. He should be great. That was a bit like anytime as soon as possible. Like, I know that sometimes I just really wanted to say 120 million views. I would have to think so. I would have to do that about my storylines and abouts. I choose what I could. I just choose one of the about besides to about how long is on the video. That they says how long do I the videos. They told me about how long do I videos. I do for about 40 minutes for each side for about decided what I have to do that. All I have things to make is 40 minutes for each side. All things we make due to her for about an entire time. I was deciding news for about like an entire time for the YouTube channels for about Tony Tornadoes as the subscriptions or content is free is the same actions. Same thing the same time is about like an entire time is about all things we could about Tony Tornadoes channels and same thing the same time and he lives in the Las Vegas, Nevada and P.O. Box. Sometimes they use about Twitter and Instagrams. However, Tony does have to make TikToks. I think so. He does have the emails and TikToks and Google Vine cameras and Twitter and Instagrams, and including his Facebooks. And he works at the YouTube studios at all times. And he does make matters about what it takes care of about for non-criticizing this crap. He knows about is indefinitely criticizing about like an entire critical person about disgrace, selfish, disrespectful, and awful and baddest timelines on the planet. Dude, what I think are the biggest things ever in all time. There was quite frankly more than a time for about Tony's was confusable says what is she talking about all the time for about the video's actions. Well, Tony doesn't like it about row songs like Samantha did. Since every people doesn't like it. About I just like songs about the church and High School Musicals trilogies and Hannah Montana and the Jonas Brothers and then most do have about Camp Rock's trilogy, Camp Rocks, and Sharpay's Fabulous Adventures, like Girls. Jonas Brothers do has the guys and girls too, like Kids of the Futures. I like Kids of the Future of Jonas Brothers in 16 years. All we did is about all the time we could. Now, as far as I know, we're just gonna have to talk to her about like entire time and the timelines. So we're just gonna have to see this about the Regal Entertainment Group as Regal Cinemas until next year's for me. So I'm done with the AMC theaters discounts and last month ago. I'm done with the AMC theaters things and all time. I uninstall it at all times for the last month ago and 5 years. Thank you, AMC. Thank you for me. Between me and the AMC theaters was parted ways from the 5 years. Which is I make it to go for about Regal Cinemas as Regal gift cards and Regal movie tickets as far as I can. I like Regal Cinemas as far as you know about Regal Entertainment Groups. Thanks we could. Thank you for coming, guys. Let's see what I could about Regal Cinemas has combos, has popcorns and snacks and drinks. Makes it I like it back. Alright guys, Thank you so much for coming in for about 40 minutes ago. Don't forget to hit the button to subscribe to more content. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Google and Vine's cameras, TikToks, and Google Chats, and subscribe on Contrast, subscribe on McJuggerNuggets, Big Brother, and Georgie Starbuggers is not even here today, and he has a children. He has a child and his wife. Even at Melissa, including Uncle Larry as Larry's Lounge, and Big Brother and his relationship as Jeffrey Whichway. And make sure don't forget to subscribe on Tony's Tornadoes and Tony Tornadoes videos cam at YouTube Studios as long as you can. Alright guys, I'm gonna go back to watch it on WCW pay-per-view Slam Marie 1997. Feel free to watch Pirates Ahoy Powwows. Don't forget. Now keep it rich, mateys.